ಅಶೋಕ್ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಮೂವ್
ಸೊ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಇದು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬೊಕ್ಕೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಬೊಕ್ಕೆ. Very good evening members. It is an always for the Bangalore Chartered Accountants. We are facing challenges, and the challenges we are turning into opportunities. Now it is a corona effects. We are unable to conduct the CP sessions with physical presence of members. So Bangalore is an IT hub. We are starting with this live webcast on remote working and office management. We have with us a digital man, a chartered accountant, CA Narasimhan Alangon. He has CA, CS, Visa, many courses he completed, and he recently his book Digitalizing CA Practice he released in KSA conference. So presently, today he is going to handle the session on remote working and office management. In the upcoming days, we are conducting the many sessions like this on banking, bank audits and etc. So on behalf of all the members, I welcome CA Narasimhan for this session. Members, as you are aware, because of this corona, till maybe it is extended to first week of April. So I request all the members to keep on touch with the Bangalore branch for all these live programs and continue our learning, e-learning with the digitalizations. So once again, I welcome CA Narasimhan and over to Narasimhan for the session.
Very good evening, members. It's indeed a pleasure joining you through this live webcast. Just give us a couple of minutes. We are just trying to quickly reorganize the show so that it is clearly visible to all.
Internet better, sir. Wi-Fi.
If you could just connect.
Wi-Fi completion.
live video.
So
I think it's all set up now. Let us quickly get started. So, welcome to the live webcast on remote working and office management. So, as all of you are aware, the entire country is facing, or rather the entire world is facing a challenging phase as of now, where we are forced, or rather by choice or by preference, people are preferring to have work from home. And considering this, many of the CA offices also are coming up with these sort of policies that yes, we need to work from home, and this is all in the interest or larger interest of the community. So considering these, how is it that we can operate being offline, or rather not physically being present in our office? You'll have to keep in mind 100% operating through in the same efficiency is definitely not possible. Let us all admit that. But what we can do is make the disruption as minimal as possible. I'm sure long back all of us, when we were preparing for our exams, we read one concept called as business continuity planning. And this is a true test of any organization's business continuity plan. In fact, people always used to think, when I have to think about business continuity, it could be fire, it could be a virus attack, or it could be something relating to that. But little did we realize that a virus in a different form could also interrupt business. So on that note, let's quickly go ahead and get started with this particular session. A brief about me. I'm Narasimhan Ilangovan, practicing chartered accountant. Specialize in the domain of technology. I just have a passion towards technology, and I see how best technology can solve day-to-day problems. Recently, I've authored a book titled Digitizing CA Practice for the Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association, and a copy of that is available in their store. You can pick it up if you are interested. And quickly moving on to what I want to cover. Before that, a few agenda points you should keep in mind. Before we move to the agenda, a disclaimer. I'll be discussing a lot of apps today because this is about practical tools and tips. I don't endorse any of them, nor my organization endorses. It is merely for the purpose of understanding the concept and seeing how practically we can deploy it. Right? So I have that reservation, and having said that, I'll quickly move on to that. So the first section which I want to make a mention is what are the challenges we have. In the road ahead, what are the challenges which we should need to consider? As employers, what are the challenges? As employees, what are the challenges? Second, how can we do a countermeasure strategy for this? I'll speak in terms of an approach. What are the few practical tools and tips? And I'll give you a few examples of each of these. Then, very important is security considerations. I'll emphasize that a little more when I'm speaking there. And last is a few general considerations. Let's quickly look into what are the challenges which are lined up before us. The first challenge which we have, all of us, we need to keep in mind, from a CA office perspective, the major challenge which we have is, do our employees have the adequate resources to enable working from home? Okay. So the first biggest challenge is, do our employees have the feature or adequate resources to enable working from home? The second challenge which we have is, if all my internal assets are they connected over VPN? If everybody is connected over VPN, would it be possible for me to support? That is my second consideration which I need to do. The third thing is, how do employees communicate? How will employees be able to communicate typically? Are audio conferencing, video conferencing, or general communication setup? Fourth, do you require printers and use of these hard copies? And the most important, how are you going to factor the reimbursement costs, any additional costs, etc.? Because there may be scenarios where we are forced to work from home, the cost of it, who is going to bear, and issues like this would definitely crop up. So these are challenges which you will have to address from a CA office perspective. Now that we have understood these major challenges, I'm sure all of you must be facing this. This is at a high level what the challenges we are looking at. If we drill down, we may have much more, but we will look into these. The second, from an employee point of view, the biggest question is, do I have internet speed fast enough? Please consider both download and upload speed. Assuming our employees are working from home, they obviously are connected with their home Wi-Fi. Do they have the concerned download and upload speed? What is the bandwidth cap? And bandwidth is the amount of data which it can take at a given point in time. For instance, many of us would have had an experience of watching or streaming a video, correct? So when you stream a video, the bandwidth is obviously much higher compared to that of sending an email. When you work on remote or when you're working through VPN, all these things require higher bandwidth. And what are these technologies? I will be addressing in our appropriate places. Next, is there any specific good area within the home to work from? I mean, this is a practical challenge for those of us who have been working from home, because you may feel that, where in home do I work? Because home is a place not to work, correct? So, where in home do I work? Do I sit at the dining table and work? Do I sit in the living room? Or, do I get my laptop on top of my bed and start working? Well, that's another area as an employee will have to look into. And most critical, from an information security angle, there are few things which we have to look at. First, are the endpoint devices having antivirus solution, malware detection solution, etc.? Are the new 100% remote assets scanned for vulnerabilities? Because we ask an employee to use his or her personal laptop, we don't know what are the vulnerabilities which are into it. How are policies being enforced? Are devices hardened before they're enforced? Are you focusing on having appropriate security controls before doing it? And of course, what are the plans, the assets, or if these things go for a failure, do I have a sort of a backup plan? So these are the basic security considerations which I will have to factor before I get started. Now that I've given you a host of problems, and I'm sure you must be telling that yes, we already know the problems. What is the solution for it? Correct? So first and foremost is, if you remember, I started off by saying, not everything can be started by working from home. You may have to divide these tasks. Correct? So that is where an approach has to be defined, and that is where I move to the next section. What are the countermeasures? When I use the word countermeasures, here we are trying to see how best can we solve with the help of available tools, technologies, solutions. Under that, the first thing which I would want to probably focus is on the approach. Now this is where I've spent a good amount of time penning down. This is not rocket science, but it's a simple solution for each of us to understand how to approach it. And it all begins when, assume a scenario, tomorrow onwards you have to start working from home. What are the things you have to do? First, identify the key tasks for the next 2 weeks. Now, what do you think are the key tasks for the next 2 weeks? For instance, today we are at March 18th, correct? So March 18th, which is about 2 to 3 days or 4 days away from the GST deadlines. I understand GST deadlines are split into various 20, 21, 22, etc. Now, most of the CA officers have this as a deadline, correct? So this is something which you should be factoring about, correct? Maybe some of you might have March 31st income tax returns, physical stock verification, or some internal audits going on, internal financial controls review, etc., etc. There is a list. For each of these tasks, spend some time and identify the key resources required. And this is the most important step you will have to do. When I use the word key resources required, it could be laptops, it could be software, it could be various systems which are running within your office or outside or on the cloud. Make a list of these, and most important, how are these people going to access them? A few examples could be software, laptop on rent, files which are necessary, digital signature, etc. Also identify if personal laptops of employees can be used. This is a very interesting thing, and I've seen many of the organizations come up and do this, which is nothing but a simple concept called BYOD, bring your own device. So identify these key resources. Once you have identified that, now assign the task to your various office team members, and this is where you prepare a sort of a matrix. You sort of prepare a chart saying that these are the tasks which I have for the next 2 weeks. These are the resources available. How do I assign them and map both of them? And this is where I told you prepare a matrix or a chart to map these above points, because this will ensure that you have properly allocated. An example of this I will of course be showing it in the next slide. That's very simple, not a rocket science formula, but just a simple approach to get started. Now this is a next interesting challenge. How or what are the methods in which you track the various tasks and manage official communication? Imagine if you are in an office, you would obviously call them up, just give them a message, or just tell them or shout out. But all of them are located at different places. How are you going to get the work done? So this is where it becomes a crucial challenge. A very interesting thing, when you are adopting the strategy, assuming you have come up with a methodology in which you're going to do it, try it with a few users and then slowly move to the majority. Meaning, do not ask all your employees to go from work from home right on day one, because you may not have tested these sort of plans. So it is recommended that you try with two or three resources and then keep on bisecting it. Probably in a 2 to 3 days time, you should be probably in a reasonably good position to identify values. Let's take this example we quoted as this. Bucket or clearly specify the problem statement. This is where it says, let us bucket this into 3. What is the task required? And I gave you the example that the task required is GST file. Now for this, what are a few resources required? An example, accounting data is necessary. It could be Tally, it could be cloud. You require certain GST login credentials. You require Microsoft Office, which is basically for your Excel and Word, PowerPoint, whatever, depending upon what the need is. Maybe PDF, etc. to read those details. And software for filing. Now, given this as a constraint, let us see what the possible solutions is, and this is merely an approach for us to get started with. For the accounting data, or if it's Tally or if it's cloud-based. If it's cloud-based, we don't have a problem because it is accessible over the internet. If it is Tally, you'll have to explore, are there options to operate this on remote? Probably I'll just give you a few instances and try to show you a demo to the extent which is possible. Second, how can these GST login credentials be managed? Because you may have stored it in a centralized repository, or you may have stored it in a confidential manner. You can probably use password manager apps. You could probably use cloud-based spreadsheets. An example could be G Suite. Correct? In the Google Suite or Google Suite, however you can call it, there is an app called a spreadsheet. In that spreadsheet, you have loads of these features which are lined up. Next is an interesting thing, software for filing. Now here, this is an interesting challenge which we all of us are facing. Some of the software which we use in our offices are cloud-based, so we don't have a problem. There are many of these softwares which are on the premise or on a specific location, or which we have to call it as the traditional method, on-premise deployed software. So for all of these software, there are certain softwares which has what is called as a remote desk feature. See if you can explore or exploit that remote desk feature. Second, there are also remote desk features in the nature which by default Microsoft provides. For instance, Microsoft has got a concept called Microsoft Remote Desk. You could probably download that software and give it a try. Of course, this requires certain basic prerequisites which is available in the Microsoft website. One could visit it. Alternatively, you could use certain third-party apps. When I use this word third-party apps, these could be third-party apps such as your AnyDesk, TeamViewer, etc. Please take care of the licensing and the terms of use whenever you are deploying these tools. So this is just to give an idea or a perspective on how one of the tasks which you have lined up, you could probably consider bifurcating into pettier tasks and define the problem statement. This is an approach which you could consider and define most of the problems which you are facing currently and see how best you can try to do it. While I understand everything cannot be remote, it can definitely to some extent be brought under these circumstances. Going further, the second most important thing which I wanted to give you from a practical perspective is what are the apps available for working from home. Now these are an interesting set of tools which are available for working from home, which I'm going to show it in the screen, where you will find some interesting options. Okay, let's spend a few minutes to discuss it. The first is the video conferencing option. Now this video conferencing is one of the things which is utmost necessary in these troubled times. Why? Now, most of these video conferences have certain unique features. And what are those features? You can view the other person's screen. You can share your screen. There are possibilities in which you can collaborate. And some of these also have options where you can upload or download through that software. For example, I'm not too very sure whether it is visible because there's a webinar and there is a screen being projected. What I could probably do is try to read out the names which are mentioned in this particular slide. The first app towards the extreme left is an app called as Zoom. There's another app called as Loom, okay, Appear.in, Skype, Join Me, Cisco WebEx, GoToMeeting, BlueJeans, and the last one is Meetings by Zoom. So you find a whole lot of these apps which are available, and very interesting, if you did some research, if you visit to any of these websites, for instance Zoom for that matter, or Meetings of Zoho, or for that matter even GoToMeeting, they have certain basic license which is available free of cost. And the best part of this is for small organizations up to 5 or 3 or up to 10 users, a few of these softwares have got a very bare minimum basic price which you need to pay. In fact, you could decide to pay just for 1 month for the subscription and try to manage this. Recently, I had a requirement from a client where we had to do a certain process review and gap reviews. And for this engagement, since the client was at a remote location and the client did not have budget, we were not allowed to travel. And this is of course prior to the corona outbreak. What we did was we downloaded one of these apps and we sent the link to the client and they joined us over this WebEx. Now, through this entire process, I was able to do a process understanding, a gap analysis, and I was able to give them the report with suitable disclaimers stating that I have not physically visited the premises and these are the limitations. Subject to this, you can definitely rely upon my report. Now, this became a very interesting opportunity because the client had a very limited budget, but I, sitting at my office room, I was able to do it. In fact, when somebody just came near my cabin, they were wondering why is this gentleman spending 3 hours talking to the laptop. But the reality was I was actually doing a review of a client. So these are simple ways in which you can initiate, and these are also ways in which you can communicate to your client that yes, you are a digital CA firm, because all of us know that digital is the future. Let me give a few examples where you can use it. Client meetings, training article staff. This is a very, very interesting thing. I understand that recently, the institute had good number of intermediate and CA final pass outs. Many of these people would have just joined the organization, and enforcing immediately to these people work from home would become very difficult, because you will have to explain them and train them. And this is where you can use a few apps like this which can solve it. These are video conferencing facilities where you can actually see face to face and sort of interact as well. But please keep in mind, if you're working from home and you're speaking to the client, please ensure two things. One, you are as professional as you look in a face to face, meaning ensure you're with a blazer or with a tie at least, and ensure your background settings are very, very clear. I have seen cases where video conferences have taken place from work from home where the background was very, very funny, and I don't want to give those instances away. Moving away from the jovial part of the section, I hope this gave you a good area where you can use this. Let me quickly move further. The second biggest challenge which we face is on the discussion and collaboration. Now, why is this a challenge? Because earlier you would walk into your article staff or your employee's desk and say, hey, you know what, do this and show it to me. Whereas now it becomes difficult. So this is where apps such as this, what you see on the screen, may be of help. Slack, Microsoft Teams, Flock, and Click. These are a few apps which are available. Of course, each of them has their different pricing, which you can go look into it. For smaller teams, as I said, they have a free version available. And for emails, we definitely have our own Gmail, Outlook, Apple Mail, Zoho Mail, or HostGator, and so many other fellows who are actually coming up with these discussions and collaboration. Now, where can you use this? You can use it for internal discussion. You can also use it to track work-wise discussion. Now, the beauty of these things are, some of these have an integration available to email, meaning you can click on the email, click on this integration, and on that email you can discuss with your staff members. You can create a small group only for the purpose of this and do it. See, practically when 3 or 4 of them are doing one particular thing, you go to their desk and inform them. Whereas once you have to do it electronically, all these interesting challenges comes with us. So I hope this would be able to help you to solve a few problems with respect to discussion and collaboration. So where can you use it? You can use it for internal discussion. You can also use it to track work-wise discussions, etc. What you could also do, or rather, where you could also use this is some of the files which may become difficult to share over email every time. Maybe you can consider sharing this over apps such as Slack, Flock, or Microsoft Teams. In fact, a few of these are available with certain other integrated applications. Once you visit their website, you will be able to identify. For instance, Microsoft Teams has a bundling offer with Microsoft Suite, which if you visit their website, you will probably get something. The next area is, in your own office, you have a huge data repository. But when it comes to work from home, how do I share this repository? Do I share all of these over email? You can imagine the size of the information, and most important is, these you lose a control over where the versioning is. So therefore, apps such as this which you are seeing on the screen may be quite helpful. For example, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive by Microsoft, or WorkDrive. These are all a few interesting apps which are available today for sharing and storing these files. Now, a very interesting feature amongst these apps are, they have a feature where you can build or you can save within the desktop of the laptop or the personal computer. Meaning, as and when you keep on saving the data in a particular folder, it will get synchronized across the Google Drive or OneDrive or WorkDrive or Dropbox. So all the employees who have access for that will be able to immediately. Now here, a pro tip which I would suggest is carefully decide when you keep a folder over here whether your employee can download it or just view it. Remember, if he downloads, it remains in his laptop forever. Maybe if it is your office laptop given to him, it is okay. But if you have given it into his domestic or your home or your personal laptop or PC, then it becomes a challenging. So where can you use it? You can use it as a file repository. It can act as a backup. Large files can be put into this and shared. It can be accessed over the web without downloading. That's another interesting feature. For instance, if you had sent a file using G Drive or OneDrive, you can right click that and say view online, or view as a spreadsheet or view as an Excel sheet. You will be able to view it and also perform certain basic functions. The only challenge is if you upload an Excel sheet into the Google Drive, probably the versioning, it may have some trouble, because in Google Drive, if you are right clicking and using a spreadsheet, it will ask you, do you want to save the file once again? So to that extent, multiple versions may be there, but this is where you actually practically try and experiment them so that you will get a interesting perspective on how to manage this. So these are a few instances on how you can share and store these files. I understand many of them would be having questions. What you could do is you can pen down these questions, and since we are not face to face, we are just on a screen to screen, correct? I will make sure the last 10 to 15 minutes is kept open for Q&A. As in when you type it in the portal, I will be able to view it and I'll be able to answer it. For those of you who are not aware where to ask questions, if you are seeing it live from the Bangalore branch website, which is a Bangalore ICA TV, the link which would be available, you have an option there to ask questions. Please do submit if you have any. Not that I can answer all of them, but I would definitely make an attempt to the extent what I know. Moving further, the next area, I in fact made a mention of this, is documents and spreadsheets. Now this is where we need to keep in mind that most of our staff, if they are using their personal systems, etc., may not have Microsoft Office or its equivalent. I'm giving Microsoft Office as an example because majority of us use this in our offices. Now this is where we need to come up with alternate versions, and this is where your G Suite or your Office 365 comes into picture. You also have certain open source software such as OpenOffice, WPS, Polaris, which you will find on the extreme right of the slide, which is quite useful. A few of these you need not even install. Over the web browser you can use it. In other words, imagine your Microsoft Word opens, but not as a separate Word app, but it is embedded within the Chrome or the Firefox application, and that's how it's going to work. Likewise, it happens with the G Suite or any of these applications. You can go ahead and explore it. What you see on the extreme right, which is OpenOffice, WPS, and Polaris, these are open source softwares which are available for free. A cloud version of these you can probably consider using. The next bigger challenge is, how do I track the various works which are allocated to my staff? And for which we have a host of these applications which you find it on the screen. Trello, Jira, Smartsheet, Asana, Redbooth, Zoho Projects, Monday, Clockify. These are all a few examples which are available. Now these have interesting features where you can share a task, you can upload a file, you can track the time spent on each of these tasks, etc. You can alternatively just decide that instead of going for all of this, I would simply use a CA practice management software, which is quite right. These practice management software can be deployed on the full swing now. You can upload the various versions, and some of the practice management softwares have inbuilt integrations within that particular office or open source applications what we saw in the previous page. For instance, if an employee has sent you a file, you need not download that file and review it. Instead, you can just right click and say edit. It will open the the basic open source version in which you can actually go ahead and edit it. Okay. So time tracking, all of these are also possible. Now, who are the office management software? These are a few examples. There are hundreds of apps available. I'm just mentioning a few of them here. Of course, Trello is repeated here. Trello is also popularly called as a workflow management software. Your Bitrix is another workflow management. These are generalistic. You find ProCat over there, which is mentioned. Another interesting software called Cordil, C-O-R-D-L. This and the software below that, Simplify Practice, both of these have an MOU with our Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You can visit our ICA website and probably procure them at a nominal cost. And Cordil has one interesting feature which I was just going through some time back, where you can right-click the file and probably do the online edit itself. Correct? And I'm sure each of them has its own versions and its own features. You can definitely go and explore. And we did speak about this Microsoft Teams, correct? As of now, I think they have given it at a nominal or at a zero price if you are using a Microsoft Suite. You can also look into how you can get a free subscription. Many of these softwares also have a 30, 60, 90-day free period, and there's a good time for you to explore them. So you can communicate, you can work together, you can customize, and most important, you can keep the data secure. So this is on the office management which I wanted to make a mention. Now, interesting question which most of us get is, sir, I have to download these softwares from multiple places, various places. Is there a simpler solution for me? In other words, can there be one place where we have a repository of all of this put together? I would say yes, that is possible. There are three large players who give you this service as a bundle, where you can do various things embedded into it. First is, of course, which all of us use it directly or indirectly, which is our G Suite. The second is the Microsoft, but both of this have some amount of cost consideration. And the third, which I recently came across, is a Zoho Remotely suite. But this is an interesting suite which I came across recently, and I thought I'll probably share that. It has a bundling feature with basic products, and very interestingly, when I visited their website, I found this remark which is mentioned. It says, remotely will remain free until July 1st, 2020. And they are probably giving this free until this corona or the COVID-19 issue is probably to reasonably extent resolved. You could probably consider using this tool as well. Now, one more challenge which many of us face, how do I remember passwords? Because we have a host of these passwords. Sometimes each of the C office has its own practice. Few of these apps such as SplitKey, LastPass, and in fact, most of these antivirus software companies also have these password remembering features. You could probably consider using them, and they store it on a reasonably encrypted format. Now comes the bigger question to most of us. How can I access Tally on remote? So you spoke about so many apps, we are all happy with it. But my 90 or 60 or 70%, or rather predominantly, my work is driven through Tally, which is the accounting software, correct? How do I build or how do I speak about remote access in Tally? Again, I've made a mention of this in a few slides. I'll try to show it to you practically depending upon internet connectivity over here and bandwidth constraints. I will try to show this to you. Okay. So let me see how best I can help you out with remote access in Tally. I am opening this application Tally, which I'm sure most of you would be able to see in the screen. And I choose a company. Let us presume I choose a company called Test over here. What I have done what I have done over here, I'm just zooming it so that it is to some extent clear. What I've done is I am mentioning the name of the user and the password. I've created a username and a password. For simplicity's sake, I quickly enter them. And this is the first screen which most of you would be finding. Now what you will have to do is quickly go to what is called as the control center which you see. The moment you go to the control center, please enter your tally.net username and password. Let me try entering them now. The moment I enter, it has given me a feature where I can log in, and this is the option which you would be available in your screen. Please click on this feature called user management. The moment you click on this user management, you can create multiple users over here. I have created one of the user over here and I've said please provide or give the access to the tally data over here. The moment I say yes and I just hit active, etc. Okay, what tally does is, to the email ID which is mentioned over here, in my case I mentioned my colleague's email ID, it automatically sends an email with a password. Once you are done this, the other end, the person has got the username and password, but they have not yet received the access to view this. For that, what you will have to do, we come back. I need to log out of the control center. I now go into this particular tally data. You can find on the extreme right an option called as connect. Please click on this. The reason why we have this connect option is this will enable that the file is connected and accessible. Once that is done, I quickly go click on company info. From company info, I have this option called security control. Enter security control, click on user and password. Under that, please choose an option called tally.net user. The moment you click tally.net user, you can mention what is the username of that person. I have mentioned the username here, and then I've said allow remote access. I've said yes. Allow TDL files. This is optional. If you have incorporated TDL, you can probably do that. Allow SMS access. I've just given yes or no depending on what it is. And once it is done, I just choose end of list and I just say yes. You have given the access to that person. Now you might be saying, sir, how can I do it so very easily? Or will this data move from my server to that person's server? My dear friends, the data based on Tally's configuration will remain in the original system only. In other words, it will remain only in your office wherever the data is located. Now what you need to do, because it is another session, I will open another Tally file. Of course, because because I want to showcase how differently I can log in. And in this home login screen, you have this option called login as remote user. I click on login as remote user. I mention my colleague or whoever the person to whom I've given the access. I've just created a test account. I want to give that access. And the moment I do this, it is logging in and it says that this particular company called as test with so-and-so ID is currently active. All that I need to do is enter, and then the record or the details of this particular company gets logged in and I am able to view this. Now you will also find that certain information is recorded over here, the name of the company remains the same and basic features are available. But if you look very carefully, you will not have features to edit the masters. You will not have features to, sort of view the balance sheet and P&L, but definitely data entry can be performed. It has a few limitations, but definitely this is possible. As I told you, We will not be able to fully work in various circumstances, but yes, this is one of the possible walkthrough which Tally has given. Now comes a few interesting questions. If I pass an entry over here, where will it get stored? It will get stored in the Tally server or wherever the original database is. In our case, the original database was located in the CA office or the tax auditor's office or client's location. It will be saved there. Question number one. Question number two. What if my article staff downloads this in his personal laptop? Should he have a Tally licensed version? No. This remote login works even on educational mode, and that's a big advantage to most of you. Only thing is you need to have a unique username and password. Should Tally on the other server be on? Yes, it is compulsory. Tally should be on. The company also should be on, and it should appear as connected. For example, the moment I change the status over here to disconnect, within a few seconds, if I go back to the other screen and I try to pass any entry, it would actually not try to take it. Because towards the toe end, it would say that connection to the remote is lost or invalid. So it really, you have a good security feature that way. What is it that you can do? Your data entry can be solved, of course, with a few limitations, but nevertheless, this is one of the approaches you can do. Another limitation is probably reports. You cannot view it here, but I'm sure all of you would have seen online that Tally has come up with the release, the 6.6, where you can see the reports online. So that's another feature which they have built in. For more details, I'll give you a couple of blogs where you can actually go read this up. You will get accurate information. So moving back to what I wanted to discuss, few remote features or remote access features in Tally. So as I told you, the remote access capability will help you. You require a .NET framework, and very important, you will require a TSS subscription. If you don't have a TSS subscription, this is not possible. And this is roughly the structure. You have the CA office, your client location where the Tally data resides. You have the remote user, which could be the CA office who's accessing remotely, or it could be your office laptop which is accessing. It could be a Tally single user, multi-user, or educational, or it could be a work from home, a person who's doing all of this. You can connect it. So what are the steps I told you? Quickly to give a recap. Check whether Tally TSS validity is there. You can view it in the center column, right below the screen. You can also check from there, go to the control center. You have to enter your .NET username password, and once you enter that, what is the .NET username? That is nothing but whatever the account ID which appears there. Password, I'm sure you know it. If not, reset the password by hitting F5. This is the screen which appears. Please choose user management and type the name of the user. Once it is done, you get the actual access. And what you need to do once a user is created, under the company info, security control, users and passwords, you will have to enable this. Please keep in mind one very, very important thing, perhaps I missed mentioning here, that the entire thing is possible if and only if your computer or the Tally file has a username and password. Meaning, if you go to the Alt F3 and click on company info, you have an option where security settings would be there. Please ensure the security settings you have enabled as yes, and you have defined the username and password. Very important. Please remember the username and password, because if you forget it, there's no way you can recover your Tally data. A pro tip, before you do any sort of these things, please take the backup of Tally and keep it, because you yourself are testing it. Do not test it with the live data. In case you are testing with the live data, please take a backup version and keep it. So what are a few limitations? As I told you, the few limitations are probably, it will not work on, heavy load on CA office internet connectivity. So if your CA internet connectivity is pretty heavy, that is where your CA office internet connectivity should be pretty heavy, or it should have a good bandwidth. Otherwise, you can imagine the volume, because 10 people are trying to log in, 20 people are trying to log in, it becomes challenging. Internet speed at the remote location, that is your article staff's internet speed also you have to look into. because if he is connected through a mobile hotspot, etc., that becomes challenging. Generally, it is recommended that beyond 10 companies, the performance degrades, so that's another challenging. Creating ledgers and masters are not possible. So if you have standard data, which you can probably look into it, if you see on the screen also, it is very much clearly mentioned that what is possible and what is typically not possible. Assuming this does not work, what are the alternate options available? First, you could consider purchasing Tally on a rental option for a few months. I'm not sure many of them are aware. Tally per month rental cost is available as low as probably 300 to 600 or whatever. You can visit their website. You can get an idea. This is available on a rental model. That's an interesting option. You can purchase a few of these licenses, whoever is doing data entry. And of course, you can decide whether you want to use that full time or you can surrender that license, activate the license elsewhere, etc. You can play around with that. Windows Remote Desk could be used. There's another option which I told you. You can download Windows Remote Desk and try it. Again, subject to compatibility. This one is a suggestion which I received from a few of my CA fraternity friends where they have done it, where they have installed firewall and a virtual private connection or a VPN license. For example, a company such as FortiGate provide that. And they have also obtained a static or a public internet IP address. So every internet connection normally has an IP address, correct? So your office would have an IP address, somebody else will have another IP address, etc. Now these IP addresses, the way it is structured, some companies give a permanent IP, some companies give a variable IP. You could request to the internet service provider and ask him for a permanent IP. Probably at a nominal cost, he would probably charge you maybe about 2,000 or 3,000, or you could figure it out with the internet service provider. And once that permanent IP is given, all of them, the way I'm giving the concept how the technology works, there are vendors whom you can go and figure it out. So there would be one remote or this VPN host would be installed in the server, and VPN client would be installed in the article staff or your employee's machine. The moment they log in, they will right click that enable VPN, so that, and here in the server you would give the permission. So from their house, the internet will not go to the external world, but rather it will come to your office. From your office, it will go to the external world. Meaning, even if they have to send an email using the employee's internet connection, the mail will typically, the internet will typically get routed to the CA office. From CA office, the mail would be sent, which means the workload could on the internet connection could also be a consideration which you have to look into. Your Tally servers or your internet connectivity at your office will have to run 24/7. Of course, if you are sure that they are not going to use in the night, you can turn it off depending upon what your office policies are. But definitely, these are a few points which you can consider. But this involves some amount of cost depending upon the type of software, hardware you deploy. There are a lot of vendors available, but I'm just giving you a typical protocol how you can do it. And of course, there is Tally blog which you can look into how Tally remote can probably be used. So I hope you got a reasonable perspective on what are the various alternative options if the Tally traditional method fails. While I spoke about all of this, I would not give you 100% assurance that Tally would work just like how it was working otherwise. Likewise, your entire office would be subject to disruption, and this is where the true skill of people management comes into picture. Please explain to your clients, to your vendors, to the people who are dependent on you that we are also doing we are as a firm, you are doing your best to try to solve this particular problem. Your employees are working from home. There may be some amount of delay, but we will try to ensure there is no significant disruption. Point number one. Point number two. Identify clearly which are the tasks which can be done from home, which are those which cannot be done from home. If there are tasks which cannot be done from home, a simple example is probably doing a physical verification of inventory or physical verification of fixed assets, because now it's audit period and March 31st. There are a lot of CA firms who send their staff. Please equip your staff with basic necessities. It could be gloves, it could be masks, it could be sanitizers. Please be a role model. At the end of the day, they're all our team members and our family. Don't you think we care about them? Because it is only because of them that we as a firm are actually there. Next, educate everybody on the need to, to work together and manage or survive during this particular tough time. And last, do not compromise on security. That's a very important thing. Because if we compromise on security, there is a huge potential where the data what we have is stored in multiple places. Somewhere somebody may get access. And please keep in mind, in most of our offices, we deal with PII, personally identifiable information, and all of these are protected by virtue of law. Having said that, on the other side, there are a lot of malware and phishing campaigns targeted at employees who are working at remote locations. A simple example could be an email comes saying latest COVID-19 or coronavirus update. The employee without the knowledge clicks on that. The moment that employee clicks on that, a malware is getting downloaded. So please educate them on these basic cybersecurity practices, and that is where I move to the next section for discussing what are the security considerations which you have to factor. Let's quickly look into that. Alright. Security considerations typically is employees or you're working from home. First, self-awareness. It's all about you. When I say you, I'm talking about the employee or the employer or whoever is the gentleman or the lady who's working at home. Please be aware that hackers target persons rather than devices. So they could probably send a malicious email, something untoward can happen. They trick by sending or making a sense of urgency. Example, calling in the name of software technical support. My dear friends, this has been really going on across the globe. When people are in panic, they would do anything as directed by the other person. Please make them aware. Second, most of them, this is one of the commonly not spoken points. Many of them, when you choose to work from home, you have a home Wi-Fi connection. The home Wi-Fi connection is not as secure as your office Wi-Fi connection, and it is very, very important for you to educate your employees to change their Wi-Fi password. The default password which is appearing right behind the modem which they use is what is configured in most of their offices. Admin 1 2 3 4 5. These are the most common Wi-Fi router passwords. Please educate them to change that. Change the default admin password and please enable security feature. You have something called as WPA2 security, which is a basic standard for security. You can Google that, you will get that basic information. Try to enforce your staff to have stronger passwords with more characters and preferably avoid organization name at the rate 123 and all of those. These are easy for people to guess it because you are accessing through a remote system. Everybody has provided the connectivity. Even a hacker can try to easily impersonate you by accessing with these sort of passwords. You can probably consider using a strong passphrase as a password. Probably for example multiple words like bee, honey, bourbon, or fancy things like this. Use a password manager if required. Please enable two-step verification for all your employees. Make it mandatory. Most of us, two-step verification is dual authentication. In addition to password, they will get an OTP every time they are logging in. And very important, when they are using their personal devices, please inform them to log out after the session is completed. If not, it could pose a huge security risk. The third, please ask their systems to be updated in terms of antivirus or malware solutions. If you find that the article staff does not have it, as an employer, I think you have to invest into that, and these are not too expensive. You can get certain versions available even for 2 to 3 months, and please ensure you have that. If you have kids or guests at home, make sure they do not use your office laptop, because accidentally they can erase, delete, or probably infect or push in a malware which could create some sort of a trouble. So these are a few security considerations which every organization or every CA practice will have to consider. While I understand the data, some organizations may have huge, some may have very simple or very minimal. At the end of the day, we are custodians of our clients' trust, and therefore security should not be compromised when we are looking into work from home. What are the few other general considerations? What we should be aware of? As employers, please show your support to employees and their family. Do not force them to come to your office. While I understand that there may be practical difficulties, I think we have to also understand the other side of the story. Second, educate the employees about the necessities, precautions, etc. And very important, do not ask them to go mad behind the social media information. Please trust before you pass on any information. Please enforce that and bring in that system. Implement flexible working hours, relaxation on deliverables, sanitize and keep your workplace as clean as possible. Your hand washes or your sanitizers, etc. You can probably consider using it. Evaluate group insurance policies and check whether it covers COVID-19 related diseases. That's another area which you can look into. As IT departments or many of the smaller organizations may not have separate dedicated IT departments, this would be applicable to them as employers itself. Emphasize on security. I've been mentioning this. Enable VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. Some of them have this feature. Virtual machines or remote logins, or it could be even as simple as VPNs. Consider relaxing a few information security policy requirements for the time being. Obtain additional licenses. This is another interesting thing which you can consider. You can speak to your vendor and ask them if you can provide 2 to 3 months temporary licenses if necessary. For instance, you might be using certain software such as Saral, Simply, ClearTax, or Winman, etc. You could probably speak to the vendor and request for additional license or temporary license. And maybe what you can do is, these licenses have an option where you can surrender or reuse it. Correct? So you can plan it that, every day, half day this team will use it, another half day sometime some other team will use it. Because the reality or the fact of the matter is, not every resource is used by everyone in your organization every time. This is a fundamental rule which you have to remember, and that is the principle which will enable you to work from home. Remember, work from home cannot be exactly as what you're working from the office, but you will have to factor as much as possible. As employees, a very, very important thing which you have to focus on. As employees, what you will have to keep in mind is, keep yourself away even if you are slightly sick. This doesn't mean that, your article staff keep on taking leave, but I think the fact of the matter is, if they are unwell, I think we have to educate them and inform them, yes, please refrain, because that is the best way in which they are protecting themselves and the rest of the world. Keep yourself clean, and I'm sure we have read enough of tips on how to keep your hands and sanitizers, etc., etc. These are few things which you have to take care, correct? And I'm sure most of us have changed the way in which we are looking at even basic things, correct? When you're working from home, you are saving a huge amount of time, especially on travel. Try to use that productively. And if this happens over a longer run, may not be on a shorter run, if you are working from home for long hours, you may sometimes feel lonely. Just pick up a phone call, speak to people, just have a different approach, probably look at the nature, but ensure you are connected at the same time. The next very important is, as millennials, what I need to do. So these millennials are those who are connected constantly with the social media, internet. With the WhatsApp sort of a technology coming into picture, many of us have actually become millennials today. Meaning, even our grandparents sometimes are actually, even the grandparents today, whatever they come across, they probably have using WhatsApp more than what we are using, correct? So please share accurate and valid information only. Only if you have accurate and valid information, please share, otherwise do not proceed. Keep yourself and surrounding areas clean. Follow the guidance issued by government. And this is something which, many of them are slightly neglecting. They're saying, in India, for whatever reason, you believe that something harm happens for the third party and not for us. We always feel that we are secure, not, the third party is always prone to risk. With this sort of, I'm sure news and social media has been, news and the media has been educating on this, so please take care of that. Defer your social obligations. And this is one very interesting thing which I happened to read, which is a bunch of matchsticks which have been lit. So the first matchstick lights the second lights the third, and it keeps on going. And that one matchstick, if you just pull down, the entire fire would actually reduce. So this is where I think the government has been trying to encourage people to reduce the social movement. A few other tips from working from home. Implement a work routine. Remember, you just can't be working 24/7. Correct? So you need to have a schedule. You can't say that the moment I wake up, I will start doing it. Please keep in mind, you may have your parents also who are working from home, your siblings also working from home, your spouse also working from your home, and at the same time, you have kids at your home. Correct? You need to spend proper time with all of this. Don't be surprised when you're doing a very important call with your client, or your kid jumps into the screen and says hi. Just enjoy that, because there's nothing much you can do. Correct? So just enjoy that phase, educate them. Second, speak and connect with team regularly. This is crucial because you need to understand where they are producing, what they are doing. Erstwhile, you used to just walk into the chamber, understand what they're doing, and just be happy. But today, that's not the reality. Establish work-life boundaries. Decide where work-life will end and where your personal life will start, etc. Ensure there is sufficient connectivity and backup option. If there is a power failure, what will you do? If there is an internet failure, what will happen? So please ensure that there are sufficient backup. And very important, as leaders of the profession, I think we need to identify new ways of managing this remote work. And this is yet another tip from my end. On that note, my dear friends, I think we have to move from the traditional approach of, what you can see on the screen to what is called as Namaste. Correct? So stay safe, be protected. These are a few tips and practical solutions which I thought I would make a mention so that all of you are clear. I understand that many of them would not have been able to see the screen as clearly as possible. What I would suggest is, probably in a few hours time, this presentation would be uploaded in the Bangalore branch website. You can download it from there and see what it is. I will also be giving my contact and coordinate details which you can reach out. It will be displayed on screen as well. There are some future reading and preparation material which you can consider, which you will find it on the screen. I have written an article last week or probably beginning of this week on are we ready to operate from home, and this is available on LinkedIn and TaxGuru. You can probably go there and read it. It talks about various challenges and how as various categories of people we need to gear up, as employers, as employees, as business owners, as auditors. I've also spoken about how you probably have to speak about provisioning, NPA, and various things on that. How as millennials you'll have to focus on, how as employees you'll have to focus on, how as parents you'll have to take care of kids, and I've tried to cover a wide area of people. And where or what are the few trusted websites, please go to Ministry of Health website only. Do not try to read any other website because it's only creating a lot of confusion. And for your kids, there is one interesting book available by the Ministry of Health, and it's called Kids, Vayu and Corona, a comic for COVID-19 awareness. You can probably go download that and you can try to see that. On that note, I am parting ways. About 15 to 20 minutes I'm keeping for Q&A because I understand a lot of questions are expected. So depending upon the questions, I would like to answer them. And you can quickly go on to this. If you could just see the screen, I've given you my contact coordinates where you can reach out to me. You can probably show that on the screen. where you will find them over there. narsimhan@ken-co.in. Narsimhan Ilongon is my full name. I am accessible on LinkedIn or Facebook. I have a YouTube channel as well. You can probably look into it. And on the other side, you see my NGO, which is called CAPS Foundation. We are doing a lot of initiatives, and we also brought in a new initiative, which you can go visit our website. How to save people, or how we could give a livelihood to various people impacted by this virus. And it is not, we are not going to solve the problems of those who are affected, but rather those people like vegetable vendors and auto drivers, etc., how they have been impacted. We are trying to solve that problem as well. So on that note, thank you so much. I will look forward for your questions, and if there is any feedback, if you have any other questions, I would be happy to answer them, for a simple reason: every question you ask, I get to learn so much more. Thank you so much, and namaste. So I understand there are a few questions which have come up. Let me quickly try to address them. You'll have to give me a couple of minutes while I'm trying to set this up. Yeah. Few of the questions which I've got is, okay, a couple of them on screen. Presentation is not very clear. Yes, sir. We will send across the presentation. One suggestion is that project management software is excellent. Does it have a cost? Getting used to some initial hard driving for everyone to use. I'm not sure what the gentleman was trying to mention it here. If your question was, is work management software free or is it accessible with a price? Yes, there is some basic price, but it is also available. Free version is also available. You can go and explore them. Yeah. What about the licensing of Tally version to access remote access? Yes, as I told you, you need to have the Tally license, and second, you should have paid the subscription, the yearly subscription, which is also called as the TSS. In case you have not done that, please contact Tally vendor. I'm sure they'll be able to help you out. And the moment you have paid that required money, what happens is that the license gets enabled, and I think it's for a period of 1 year. Is it possible to access all the client Tally data through remote access? Yes, but the concept which I told you, every company you have to go there, go to the security settings and enable it. So if you enable this feature for all the security settings, for all the users, it is possible, otherwise it is not possible. One other thing which I have come across, many organizations or CA firms do not have separate email IDs for all their staff. In those cases, if you're asking staff to use their personal email ID, please be a little cautious because you're sharing the client confidential or sensitive information. Alternatively, you can probably create 1 or 2 email IDs which 2 or 3 people can share, and you put in some accountability, even though it is not recommended, but it's again your choice. Today, email is available at a nominal cost. You can probably visit a few of these websites. They also provide you free emails. You can probably explore them as well. Okay. What is the difference between video conference tools, discussion and collaborate tools? Please elaborate. Okay, let me clarify. Video conference tools, very simple. It is a video conferencing app. For example, now we are doing this session through a webcast. Alternatively, we could have also done through certain video conferencing, but again, it requires every person to register, and there are certain protocols. But since this is a place where many of them are hearing, it may have challenge. But having said that, you can definitely enable one-to-one meeting through a video call. It is as good as you speaking to a person, like how you have WhatsApp call feature, right? The same thing, but it will come on a screen like Skype or WhatsApp. In addition, you can share the screen. One important thing which I think I missed mentioning, these video calls also have a feature where you can actually go and if I could probably state it this way, record the session. So you can always use it. So many of them were asking, sir, if I have to have new staff and if I have to train them, how do I do it? Record the session, explain them face by face. Recorded version, you can give it to them and ask them to implement on their own. That's a possible option which you can consider. And what is discussion and collaboration tools? These are only for, let's presume you have 10 tasks which you have with the various staff. Each client-wise, there are some instructions which you want to give. So if you come to your article's desk and you give the instruction, but when you're doing it online, you can't come every time, right? So you create, assuming like a 10 dashboards. In each of the dashboard, you create a particular task and give your comments. Your staff can also comment against it. So that's basically what is called as a collaboration tool. You can share files, you can share audio, video, etc. So these are a few clarifications or questions which have come forward. If there are any more, I would be happy to take it. We still have time. If you have any questions, please feel free to write over there. I would get the questions enough time and I'll be able to address them.
Just you have it.
We just got one question.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Oh, 4 questions are there.
4 questions. I've answered. That's it.
That's it.
Right. So we'll just give it probably about 2 to 3 more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, I've given you my contact coordinates. You can reach out to me. My full name is Narasimhan Ilangovan, Narasimhan Narasimhan Ilangovan, Elangovan. You can search me on Google. You will be able to get my LinkedIn ID or my YouTube account or any of these details. I'm sure I'll be able to connect on this. More questions? Okay. All right, friends. So since there are no more questions, I'm presuming that I've been able to inform you what are the various practical solutions available and what are the security considerations. If you do have any more questions, please do reach out. I'll be happy to connect with you. And thank you so much. And thank you, Bangalore branch, for taking up this initiative and speaking on this or bringing up a topic as crucial as this. I'm wishing you all to be safe and at the same time be healthy enough, and let us all as a nation fight this pandemic, and I'm sure within a short span of time we would be able to come out of this. Thank you so much. Pass my turn.